Today we're going to talk about how to teach comprehension. Okay, so reading is said to be the most important subject. Why? Because it affects every other subject. Fall short in this one, and one will struggle with all their other subjects. Yet if children are not comprehending what they read, they often still find themselves failing. It is no wonder that parents and educators are in search of answers on how to teach comprehension. Working with children over the years, I've discovered some very important information. First of all, it's important that a child master some degree of reading before teaching comprehension. And an even bigger and common mistake is to expect children to learn the different elements of reading before they can even read. By elements, I'm talking about asking them to break a story down into what is the main idea, what's the supporting details, tell me the cause and effect. It's like expecting a child to run before they can even walk. It is causing more harm than good. The activity and question cards that come with the game Ring Around the Phonics is all the comprehension instruction early readers need to experience. But once they are able to read, one can begin teaching comprehension in more detail. Let me explain how. Many years ago, I had my first group reading very efficiently, only to discover they had no idea what they had just read. So I had them read a few sentences and then act out the scene from a book we were reading. Permit me to tell you the story. The group was taking turns reading aloud. Sam ran, Dan ran. I replied, okay, who's going to be Sam and who's going to be Dan? Note, it is important to allow them to take the leadership role. Too often adults want to do the work or give the answer, which actually subtracts from the learning experience. Okay, so two young volunteers excitedly stepped forward. I'll be Dan, I'll be Sam. However, when I asked them to act out what they had just read, they looked at me and their peers with the most bewildered look. They had no idea. They had no idea what to do. Wanting to create self-confidence with this activity, I simply had them read the two sentences again and encourage the whole group, not me, to take charge of the needed action to complete the task. And it is more fun to watch them in action. One child stood up, put his hands on the shoulders of one of the other actors, gave him a gentle push, and told him, run! We continued in this manner through the whole book. Young children love this activity because it's geared to their natural tendencies. Have you ever noticed how many hours they spend role-playing? This is a natural way for them to learn, so use that natural tendency to teach. We continue to do this activity with several more books. They were eager to participate and became more and more skilled at it. Eventually, I simply began asking each child to tell me what he had just read. At first, they wanted to rely on the role-playing, which I gradually weaned them off of. Soon they realized they were going to be asked the question, and they made sure they were prepared to answer it successfully. Children naturally want to learn and succeed as long as we do not squash that natural desire. Have you ever noticed how when they first begin learning, they're so eager? Some children retain that, but there's a reason not all children do. Unknowingly and with good intentions, many of us squash children's natural desire to learn in the following ways. 1. A very common mistake in the attempt to build self-esteem is to make things too easy, to eliminate struggle. We often want our children to have it easier than we did. However, studies show that when a child meets adversity and is able to overcome, they develop an amazing degree of inner strength and confidence. The movie Rudy, which is a true story, explains this phenomenon very well. Rudy Rudiger was a young man who met many obstacles because of his small stature. However, those struggles helped him to develop an inner strength and confidence that made him try and try when others might have given up. In fact, many of his high school classmates who had things much easier than Rudy often gave up far easier. Thus, many of them as adults have not developed the skills necessary to accomplish the difficult things in life. At the opposite end of the spectrum, we do not want to continually set children up for failure by expecting them to comprehend and tell you the elements of reading before they can even read. Once they master comprehension in the manner that I'm explaining, you can begin teaching the elements. It is simply a common sense, step-by-step process. Okay, number 3 is most common. Many times we ask a question only to get this dead silence. Have you ever had that happen? You ask a question and all of a sudden nobody says a word? It's so compelling to fill that silence by that silent time by giving the answer. But it's far wiser to wait in complete silence. Fill the silence with silence. It's hard, but when we do this, someone usually fills in the empty space in time by giving an answer or asking a question about what we meant. This technique teaches children the ability to find answers independently of you. Number 4, when a child asks us a question, it is all too easy to give them the answer. However, if we ask them a series of questions instead that help them discover the answer on their own, they learn a great deal more. In ancient times, Plato proved an important point along these lines. He was explaining to his colleagues that knowledge comes from within. "Oh, no, no, no," replied his colleagues. They added that a person is not born with knowledge, and it must be given to them, stuffed into them. To prove his point, Plato had a 5-year-old child brought to the meeting. When the child arrived, Plato began asking him questions, but he didn't give him any information or answers. At the end of the demonstration of progressive questioning, the little boy solved a very complicated algebra problem, proving Plato's statement that knowledge does come from within. In conclusion, it is our job to show children that the power to learn is within themselves. Knowledge is not something we must cram into them by but it is something we bring forth from them. Plato's technique makes one far more successful at teaching. You are cordially invited to see more of our free lesson plans at, and you'll see it on the screen there, it's www.read-phonics.com, and I'll see you there.